up now as Pruitt's parked right on the back end of Rusty Wallace.
Bobby, you said, what's he going to do when he catches? What do you think? What is he going to do?
He's going to have to get some adrenaline going, because remember, Scott Pruitt doesn't have any experience in this track. I just wonder what Rusty's thinking. Does he think that Scotty can pass him, or does he think that, hey, that boy just going to be back there, I'll kick him a little bit?
The other question would be, what is Rusty's job in the mix? He's third place, but he's about a straightaway back from first and second, Mark Martin and Johnny Benson. So is his job really to sit here and fight with Pruitt right now?
You know, another thing that could be happening, Scott Pruitt is a very good race driver. He could have been thinking of all these laps that he's been just gaining a foot or 2 foot at a time about what he's going to do when he gets there. So maybe he's got a game plan. We'll see. That's Rusty Wallace in the 12, the blue car. Scotty Pruitt right there in the beautiful rose-colored car.
Now, gaining is one thing. Passing is an entirely different situation.
Especially at this racetrack. I think Benny Parsons, who's got such a tremendous amount of races at this track, can tell you it's a tough place, right, Benny?
It's a very, very tough place to pass. And now Scott Pruitt, it looks like, has lost a couple of car lengths in this last lap. He seemed to have trouble down in turns 1 and 2 last time, but not this time. He's able to close up almost on the back bumper of Rusty Wallace.
But you know, sometimes if you get close enough, it'll wash out the front end of the car. Like it could be the Scotty's car just pushing when he gets right there. In fact, I can watch. He's trying to run underneath Rusty all the time. Could be he's got a little push there, Benny.
He's got a run on him right here, Bobby. He's alongside.
Pruitt moves to the inside, gets alongside Wallace. Can he force that nose ahead? Yes, he does.
Boy, now we didn't know how that pass was going to happen, but we thought Scotty had it figured out all along where he was going to do it, I think.
So Scott Pruitt from IndyCar moves into third place. Front of the track is still Mark Martin, Johnny Benson, 2 NASCAR drivers. But Scott Pruitt is very definitely making the IndyCar presence felt here.
Benny, you got to admit that was one good, calculated pass.
You know, not only a great pass, but the last 20 laps have been, Scott Pruitt has been doing a fantastic job for 20 laps, gaining and not trying to get over his head and crashing, just taking his time and finally rooting him in and passing him. My hat's off to Pruitt.
But you got to admit, Benny, we didn't think after he got there that he was going to be able to pass Wallace. I mean, Wallace, who has a tremendous amount of experience here, Scotty with virtually none, and yet he did have something in mind.
Yes, he did.
When you look at the cars, once again, the numbers on the cars indicate their position in the points fight as they came here to Charlotte. So you can see Scott Pruitt is really a mid-pack points guaranteer, while at the same time Rusty Wallace came into this at the bottom of the point standing, so he needs every point he can get. The leader in the points coming here, Robbie Gordon, he's out of the race. Dale Earnhardt was third in the points. He's out of the run. So points at this race have now become absolutely critical, and that explains why somebody like Al Unser Jr., who came here second in the points, is continuing to stay out and try to motor around. You have to give special credit to the IROC crew, who not only builds these cars over the winter, but maintains them and keeps them equal throughout the year, Jack.
When IROC left Talladega Superspeedway, there wasn't a single car in their stable that wasn't bruised, battered, broken, or bent. 900 man-hours later, by these gentlemen, and all cars are back, not only race-ready, but picture-perfect. That's the kind of work that the IROC mechanics engage in.
And you know what? After the lap 8 incident, they're going to have to do it all again. Al Unser Jr., he's now been lapped by the leaders of the race, at least by leader Mark Martin. Johnny Benson Jr. is coming around. That's Tommy Kendall up ahead as well, too. The road racers have been having a problem trying to figure out this circuit here at Charlotte. So you ride on board with Al Unser Jr. taking a look at the leader, Mark Martin, followed by Benson and then Scott Pruitt. We'll be back with more from Charlotte. Round 3 of the 20th anniversary series of the International Race of Champions as Johnny Benson Jr. moves out and around road racer Tommy Kendall. Benson right now runs in second place behind this car, the silver car of Mark Martin. And Martin has been dominant in this run thus far as we begin now to watch the laps roll down toward the 100-mile mark. The real battle has been back at third place, occupied for a while by the pole sitter Rusty Wallace, finally overhauled by IndyCar driver Scott Pruitt. In the battle between IndyCar and NASCAR, well, obviously, NASCAR is dominating the first 2 positions, and Pruitt is trying to do what he can to salvage the third position and hang on and keep Rusty Wallace at bay. One other interesting consideration is the lights on the grandstand just outside of turn 4. Well, it just went out a few laps ago, and they remain out. But they've taken a look at that situation in race control, and they say it is continuing to be a safe racetrack as Mark Martin now closes up on Terry Labonte. You look out the back of Labonte's car.
You know, Mark Martin is led. There he went right on by, no problem. And I was just going to say he's led every lap of this race, but he's done it very flawlessly. And if he's caught these cars and lapped them like he just did on Labonte on the right side of your screen there, he's done it so easy, Benny. He just glides by them.
He certainly is. And we talk about Mark Martin. He's led a race. He has a lot of experience at this racetrack. I got to give a call to Johnny Benson, the fellow's running second. He's a rookie in the Winston Cup Series. He is here because he was the champion. Look at that car backfire there.
Yeah, look at the flame coming out there.
Well, it's when he backed off the gas going into the number 3 turn in that particular case. He gets a little fire out the exhaust there.
Power and handling are the keys to winning races, and shock absorbers are the key to handling. Here's Jack Arute with our True Value Mechanics of Racing.
The first step on getting the tires to remain solidly on the racetrack is by utilizing the right springs for the right track. But if you just used a spring, it would bounce up and down uncontrollably. So you have to introduce to the suspension geometry a shock absorber. Now, they're either fluid or gas-filled, and it controls, with this piston, up and down the movement of the spring. Now, you put those on a car, and you can dial the car in initially with the choice of springs. Kind of like taking the clicker on your remote control and finding the right channel. But by changing the valving on the shock absorbers, you can fine-tune the race car. And that's critical in IROC competition, where you want cars not only to be perfect, but identical.
Back to the front of the field now. There is second place, Johnny Benson Jr. from the Busch Grand National Series. And there is the interval up to leader Mark Martin.
Am I seeing things, or is Johnny Benson gaining a little bit on Mark Martin?
You know, he just might be.
Or is it the fact that the laps are winding down and Mark Martin is backing off a little bit? But I believe that Benson is, in fact, gaining on Mark Martin.
Yeah, whatever it is, that gap is very definitely closing. By the way, Jay, you see the relationship between the two as they go down the backstretch. And by the way, the crowd here has just been spectacular. Without question, the largest crowd ever to witness. Look at them there. And they are staying right in their seats. And in fact, we're standing up for the early laps of this run.
One of the most enthusiastic crowds I've seen, Paul.
You see Benson as he tries his best to take that Firebird up on the back bumper of Martin. Now it looks like it might have stabilized.
Yeah, maybe about the same.
I really don't think he's got it, Troops. I think that Mark Martin has really got this race figured out. He's got this track figured out, his car, his handling, the suiting. He's just been flawless, and I'll bet you he's got a little bit extra if he had to have it.
So Mark Martin still out in front. Can he hold on to it? Can Johnny Benson Jr. run him down? What about the continuing battle between Wallace and Scott Pruitt? We'll be back for the checkered flag after this. National Race of Champions under the lights at Charlotte Motor Speedway. You just got a glimpse of the leader who has been out in front right from the green flag, Mark Martin. He's being chased by Johnny Benson, the 10 car. And Benson was appearing to close in for the last several laps, but now, well, it actually seems like Mark Martin has actually pulled out just a little bit on Benson, with 5 laps now to go in the run.
There's no doubt about it. Mark Martin has been the class of this field. I mean, in spite of all the wrecks, all the damaged cars, Mark has led every lap and just passes the cars so easy. Just looks like he had it made tonight.
Advantage of being the leader. He was in front of the accident.
Yes, the accident happened in the battle for 4th spot. So the cars, the 4th and 5th place cars of Jeff Gordon and Steve Kinzer crashed, and then the cars behind them started piling in. So the first 3 cars, the only ones to miss the accident.
And still, that shot that Earnhardt took as he just went head-on into that accident, that was something to see. Little Al came bouncing down behind and ricocheted off a couple of cars, but he's managed to keep his machine out there way, way back, and he's been lapped by the leaders, but There are points there, and that's what Little Al is after. Again, the relationship, you can see the lights out on the top of that turn 4 grandstand between first, Mark Martin, and second, Johnny Benson.
Now, Benson is not going to catch him. I thought a few laps ago he might have a chance, but he is not. He might as well just settle in, accept what he can get, which is second place, and be happy with it.
I think Benson picked it up a little bit, Benny, but I think also Mark Martin had a little bit of reserve, and he picked it up, too. I've got a little pizza going out, take a run on me.
At the same time, any fight that you may have hoped for between Rusty Wallace and Scott Pruitt has broken off. In fact, they occupy about the same interval of separation as first and second do, while at the same time they are well back from that battle for the lead. As we watch Mark Martin, Terry Labonte continues to get his injured car around here with all kinds of colored racers tape all over the car just to keep it holding together.
Showed you that racers tape does pretty good, Paul, because there's not very much of it that's blown off through this entire race. Good tape they used.
There's Mark Martin. He'll be looking for the white flag. 1 lap to go as he flashes across the stripe. 1.5 miles. Benson chases him. Nothing changes in the rest of the order. So Mark Martin is looking at victory here as he heads down the backstretch. That early on accident not having any impact on his run whatsoever, but having quite an impact on the points fight. As once again you see the interval. First to second place. Mark Martin makes that final turn for home. Comes down in front of the crowd here. They come to their feet. They love the run. And Mark Martin takes the win. Followed by Johnny Benson Jr. And I'll tell you what, he came into this race 11th in the points, and that's really going to help out.
And Paul, the lights came on down on the turn 4 at the same time the checkered flag fell.
So as we look at Terry Labonte, Mark Martin has been the dominant power here in the very first IROC run in Charlotte. When we come back, we'll be talking with him.